In the early 1300s, an exiled poet named Dante Alighieri wrote a story about the journey of a soul through the 9 circles of hell. His Inferno was not just about punishment. It was a map of moral consequence. Each sin had its weight. Each punishment fit the crime. The greedy drowned in gold. The violent boiled in blood. And the traitors froze in eternal ice. But what would Dante make of us, of America, the wealthiest nation on earth, where suffering isn't divine retribution, but economic design, where survival itself feels like penance?
Today there's a circle Dante never saw, a place not for the damned, but for the millions who are overworked, underpaid, and largely unseen. They are the people who are too poor to die. In Dante's Inferno, every torment was visible. It had flames, it had ice, it even had monsters. However, in America's Inferno, the suffering is quiet, bureaucratic, and relentless. It's that whole music, you hear when you're waiting for the insurance company. It's that email that says rent increase. And it's that pink letter that's stamped, as we all know, final notice. Hospitals, jobs, housing, even death, they all become parts of a gate in a modern inferno, built not by God, but by policy and profit.
Dante's hell was organized, whereas America's hell is disguised. In this circle, no one burns, they drown in debt. 1 in 6 Americans owe money to hospitals they'll never be able to repay. The median medical debt in collections is about $310, which is small enough to sound manageable, but large enough to destabilize a family living paycheck to paycheck. But accidents, illnesses, or lack of insurance coverage can push that number into the tens of thousands.
Widespread medical debt is a uniquely American problem.
The United States has by far the greatest burden of healthcare bills on individuals.
7.4% of U.S. residents face catastrophic healthcare bills each year. That's more than double the next closest country.
100 million people in this country currently have some kind of healthcare debt. That's about 40% of adults.
U.S. medical debt totaled at least $195 billion in 2019.
According to the latest stats, medical debt drives nearly 60% of U.S. bankruptcies.
Our healthcare system is creating debt on an industrial scale.
The history of medical debt is basically a history of the changing answer to the following question. When the patient can't pay the bill, who foots it?
The punishment? Working to stay alive, then working to pay for staying alive.
Housing instability is the next descent. In 2023, about 41.8 million households spent more than 30% of their income on housing costs such as rent, mortgage, and utilities. Nationwide, 80,000 families are evicted each month, and in Los Angeles, more than 50,000 people are unhoused.
Every rent hike tightens the circle. Every late fee pushes someone closer to the edge. In Dante's hell, sinners built their own prisons, but in America, we sign leases for ours.
Putting 3 meals on the table every day was a struggle for millions of Americans last year. That's the sobering conclusion of a new report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It found that hunger in the U.S. rose sharply in 2022.
In the Inferno, starvation was one of hell's cruelest torments, the punishment of those who hoarded and squandered. But in America's modern Inferno, hunger isn't punishment for greed. It's the byproduct of policy failure. Every few years, when government funding stalls or budgets collapse, or political gridlock leads to government shutdown, millions of low-income families face a cruel uncertainty. Will they eat next month? The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, or food stamps, feed more than 40 million Americans, including nearly 1 in 4 children. Yet it remains one of the first casualties of political conflict and economic instability.
When funding lapses, even briefly, states delay benefits, food pantries see demand surge by 40 to 60%, exhausting already thin supplies. A single lapse of just 1 month could cost a family their groceries and a child their very next meal. Parents begin to skip meals so their children can eat, and it becomes a serious economic crisis. Once again, the poorest pay the highest price for decisions made far outside of their reach. In this circle of America's Inferno, hunger isn't a sin. It's a symptom of a system that treats survival as collateral damage. These aren't isolated crises. They form a pattern, a cycle of scarcity driven by shutdowns, inflation, and underfunded safety nets.
Meanwhile, everyday Americans are struggling with both hunger and financial stress as they become a political football in the shutdown fight. Last month, a nonprofit natural food store in New Jersey posted on social media that it was offering a temporary discount to SNAP participants to help tide them over while their funding had run out. But an hour later, they, along with other stores around the country, received an email from the government telling them that they weren't allowed to do that. What was your reaction when you got this message from the government saying you could not help SNAP recipients even if you wanted to?
Mostly just shock, because they give the legal reason why. They refer to the equal treatment rule. And I looked up the rule, and it's very obviously about non-discrimination, which of course everyone at the co-op completely agrees with. But we just never imagined that it would be construed to prevent us from helping people through a specific time of need, especially a specific time of need that was created by government action and inaction.
Food insecurity now affects more than 44 million Americans. 13 million of them are children. Rural families, single parents, and service workers make up the largest share of this population. In the wealthiest country in history, the act of eating has become conditional, dependent on political negotiation, economic stability, and the mercy of strangers. For those trapped in this circle, hunger isn't about appetite, it's about uncertainty. And that uncertainty eats away at more than the body. It corrodes the spirit. Dante imagined the damned surrounded by unreachable sustenance. But here, the sin isn't gluttony, it's indifference. America's hunger isn't a natural disaster, it's a policy choice.
In Dante's Inferno, the laborers of hell toil endlessly, pushing stones uphill, turning wheels that never stop. America, working class, hey, we move in a similar rhythm in that we must push through double shifts and side hustles just to make, a little bit of extra, or even to barely be able to pay the bills that you currently have. Work itself essentially becomes a punishment.
Millions rise before the sun to labor endlessly, not for salvation, but for survival. The average American now works 1,811 hours per year, nearly 400 more hours than our Western counterparts. Yet wages have barely moved or adjusted for inflation, and real hourly pay has grown only 1.2% since 1979. Productivity has soared over 60%, but the reward for that growth mostly flows upward. The top 1% captured nearly twice as much income growth as the entire bottom half of the country combined.
And then there's the gig economy, which on its face promises freedom, but really delivers precarity. Gig workers deliver our food, drive our cars, bring our packages, yet they remain invisible in the very system in which they sustain. They're classified as independent contractors. They bear all the costs of business and none of the benefits. No paid sick leave, no health insurance, and no retirement.
Nearly 40% of low-income workers log over 50 hours a week, yet remain below the poverty line of $36,000 for a family of 4. In this modern inferno, labor has no sanctuary, only motion without mercy. The punishment, like Dante's, fits the sin, but the sin isn't greed. It's faith in the lie that hard work alone is redemptive. And the sad truth is that millions of Americans still live one delayed payment away from crisis. And still the message is the same. Keep grinding. It's the language of neoliberal purgatory, where hustle is holy and rest is sin, where to stop moving is to fall behind.
Being too poor to die is not a metaphor. It's a reality. Even death carries a bill. In Dante's Inferno, the deepest circle of hell wasn't fire. It was ice. There were traitors to humanity who were frozen beneath the surface, motionless and largely unseen. Theirs was a punishment of stillness, no warmth, no mercy, and no release. In America, death itself has taken on a similar chill. It has become an industry, or like a transaction, or better yet, a contract written in print that none of us can escape.
The average funeral now costs between $8,000 and $12,000. Cremation, once the affordable option, can still reach $5,000 or more. For many families, saying goodbye means taking on debt. Hospice, burial, even cremation have become luxuries. 60% of Americans say they cannot afford a funeral without borrowing. Families with no savings must often turn to crowdfunding just to bury their dead.
In 2024, more than 1/3 of GoFundMe campaigns were dedicated to covering the cost of medical bills and funeral expenses. Families have to take out loans to bury their dead. They negotiate payment plans with funeral homes. And in some cases, they even have to delay services while waiting for checks to clear. They face impossible choices: casket or cremation, debt or dignity. And death, which was once the great equalizer, has become a line item. Even in death, the poor cannot rest.
In Dante's Inferno, every punishment had a cosmic symmetry between sin and suffering. In America's Inferno, punishment has no author. It's bureaucratic, impersonal, and endless. Life and death alike are monetized.
Perhaps Dante would add a 10th circle for the unchosen, for those who did nothing wrong, yet bear the weight of economic instability. This is the labor of the damned. Millions circling endlessly through low wages, debt, and burnout, told that if they work harder, they'll climb out of hell. But in truth, the ladder itself is a mirage, and each rung is built on the sweat of the one below.
In Dante's poem, the souls of the damned often don't realize they're in hell. They mistake their suffering for life itself. So too in America, the punishment isn't fire, it's futility. The circle never ends. And yet, despite the ills of America, there are flickers of grace. Mutual aid groups who cancel medical debt.
$500 million of medical debt will be canceled for those living in LA County. And the LA County Department of Public Health says this is just the beginning.
No one should have to go into poverty to get the health care they need. And yet that's exactly what's happening.
The program is being advocated for by community organizations, those in support seen here today at MLK Community Hospital in Willowbrook. It will purchase medical debt for low-income residents. The goal is to eliminate $2 billion of medical debt in LA County. Hospitals are partnering with undue medical debt to retire that debt and close accounts.
Neighbors feeding neighbors.
People are finding and creating new ways to help their neighbors, like acting as a so-called grocery buddy.
Grocery buddy, or my idea of it, at least the way we're making it work here in Milwaukee, is connecting with an individual or a family and picking up their grocery bill.
It's kind of a way to connect families with other families that need support right now.
But basically, it's just a program to help people get food and survive the month.
Sort of become this community effort, which I wanted to be a part of.
I grew up on a farm, my grandparents' farm, but still they instill values in me that always help your fellow man, give back.
Movements demanding that health, housing, and burial be human rights, not just luxuries. Maybe the question isn't whether hell exists, but whether we keep rebuilding it. The real challenge, our moral test that is to imagine a world where neither life nor death is dictated by poverty. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. If you would like to see more of our content, please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, hit that notification bell. Because if you don't hit that notification bell, you'll not know when we drop our next video. We'd also love to hear your comments in the comments below, so you can join the conversation and tell us what you thought about this video. Until next time, good people. Peace.